God's experiment was he tried an approach. In the beginning, the approach didn't work, and he said, "Okay, let's start over again." And then he said, "You know, if I keep doing this, knowing the mentality of the human being, I'm going to destroy them. Continue. So I can't use this method again.
That's right.
Let's try another method. Let's try this. Well, it didn't work out too well. Okay, so let's alter it a little and see if we can try this method. But on the balance, okay, if the timeline is 6,000, okay, we've already been here 5,000 years plus.
Almost 6,000.
Okay, 5,000. Okay, so obviously the experiment is working, or it would have been over.
Isn't it
5780?
5780?
There's a more complicated question. What's going to happen at 6,000?
Yeah.
That's really the complicated question.
Do you remember the discussion when the year 2000 and the computers? They went crazy with computers and they're going to be destroyed, right? Nothing was
So I want to say to that, do we really know what 6,000 years is?
We don't. No. We
Just
know,
like in Parshat Bereshis, we have no idea what one day is.
There will be a change.
Right.
What kind of change?
Exactly.
We don't
Exactly.
know.
And what does it mean 6,000 in spiritual realms?
All of this discussion on Mashiach is great, but it's really meaningless.
It's a little shallow.
Because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay?
Right? And the fact that you and I can have this conversation here in such depth is Mashiach to me. Because I remember telling my teacher, I haven't told this story in this form, so I'll repeat it. You've heard it a million times. When I told my teacher in 5th or 6th grade, when, I started realizing that things just don't work out of me and I'm looking for a deeper spiritual explanation for things. And my teacher kind of pushed my questions away in school. And my parents had all this full library of all religions on their shelf. So I started reading everything. So I started coming back with more difficult questions. And my teacher yelled at me saying...
What a terrible teacher.
And my teacher yelled at me saying, what kind of Apikorsut are you reading here? Right? What kind of kfir are you reading here? How do you say in English? Atrocity? No.
Right.
Yeah? Yeah. And I said, listen, I'm looking for Hashem. Either help me find him or at least don't disturb me.
Or get out of the way.
Right? Exactly. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? And my experience through all my religious upbringing was, don't ask too complicated questions. Thank God I didn't have only that upbringing. I also had a place to ask questions. But a lot of the mainstream religious upbringing is don't ask too complicated. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that finally we can sit here and discuss things in depth and not feel like we're in some kind of a, religious regime, in Iran or something, or in communist Russia. Thank God that we have this.
We aren't getting knocks at the doors with Jack Booty.
And I can put this on YouTube, right? And nobody will come after me.
That's right.
Right? That with whatever, and this was not the experience of when I was young, right?
No, we lived in more stringent.
And there are still places, who won't invite me to a panel because I dare to say things that are a little bit more open-minded, right? Where things, you want to explain things in a very closed-minded manner where it fits into the mainstream religious idea, right? Where it doesn't open up your mind too much, right? So it's like the spiritual realm. What?
Just a cog in the machine.
Right.
A little gear that fits nicely.
Right.
And does
exactly.
its work.
But when you start opening your eyes and you're like, religion is good if it drives me to being a better person, and it drives me to being a more spiritual person. If
I
it
agree.
becomes my religious technocracy, how do you say in English? If I become a religious technocrat,
There are
Yeah.
many.
yeah. How do you
there
say?
are.
Like, how would you say that in English?
Well, that was pretty. That was well said.
When the practice of a religion is rote and meaningless.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then it drives
when you
people
do,
away.
When you do the thing because everybody does it. And I
Technically,
wear a
Right.
keep. I wear
Right.
a kippah
Technically.
because everybody wears a kippah.
Exactly.
It's meaningless.
Right. Right.
Why are you wearing
So the
a
kind
kippah?
of questions.
Because he's wearing a kippah.
Right.
No, why are you wearing a kippah? Because she's wearing a kippah.
Right. So the kind of
Oh.
questions that my children can come and ask me today without being embarrassed are not the kind of questions that I could have asked my rabbis or rabbits 20 or 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
Most of them.
Or your parents.
Or my parents were a different story altogether. But in general, the religious inspiration that I had in my area, right? Except for one. But
I had no religious inspiration in my
And
area.
when I asked my parents about
Me
halachas,
neither.
I
halachas,
was my
I'm doing it
religious
because this is the
inspiration.
way I was
I
taught.
read it.
My
Right.
father
Read the
did it.
Right.
Bible.
and our children, it's not good
And
enough for
my
them.
Before I
children
was
said to
11.
me, "Too bad. Tell me why."
Right.
I started telling
Right.
my parents,
So here's your
shut up.
answer to why we're learning this.
Yes,
You can't
exactly.
Because
say
we
that.
want to know
No,
That's
why.
why?
not true. And I'm thinking,
Why?
Why?
Anyways.
Interesting.